some reason, it doesn't seem to have the right admin access from this account. I have no idea why that is, but I can record it and upload it later. That's easier.
Okay.
Sweet. Cool. It's recording.
Cool. So I'll get started. So this is the first of, I guess, many or future community governance calls. Just trying to give the community a bit more of a voice and S&T stakeholders, particularly a voice in the direction some of the decisions that are made within Status. So this is entirely an experiment and we'll evolve the process as we go, but just figured we'd start it and learn. So I guess we'll just get started. I'm going to share my screen and walk through the first proposal, and then I'll kick it over to JB, who will walk through the second. Can you guys see?
Yep.
Cool. So the first proposal is to introduce Fathom Analytics on our marketing web properties. Fathom Analytics is a privacy-preserving analytics tool that a few people have, I guess, proposed in the past. And with the launch of V1 coming up, we just simply need a way to monitor our success of content, page views, and just kind of give us a better indicator of what's working and what's not. So a little background. Back in 2017 or early 2018, we removed Google Analytics from our websites as an adherence to the principles. Google Analytics takes a lot of data from your users, implements cookie tracking, and since we're building tools to actually, prevent this, it was a bit hypocritical to use GA. So we removed GA and leveraged only social metrics. So like Twitter likes, Twitter engagement, discuss post likes, certain metrics from GitHub, Facebook, and that's it. So we had some high level overview of what was working, but it really gave us nothing in terms of referral traffic, website successful pages, and things like that. So it's been very tricky and to be honest, very hard to measure success and set proper KPIs for any marketing work. So I know Jakob and I think even Bruno suggested we implement a privacy preserving analytics tool in the past. So we did a little bit of research and we found Fathom, and they meet all of our criteria. And I'll just go into a bit of the information that they do collect. Actually, sorry, I'm going to take a step back. So how we're going to use it, we're going to measure unique visitors to our webpage. And this can actually give us some information as to how campaigns are working, how social campaigns are working. And we can also use it as, sorry, that's that. So we'll use it on all of our blog content as well. So we can see what blog content is working well and what's not. And we can infer a little bit more about our audience as well, whether, more technical content is working or more branded kind of visionary content's working, and then just scale it up from there. Next, we can monitor link clicks over a period of time. So when we do get into V1 and we have, CTAs for install iOS or Android, we can actually we can monitor and measure how many people are clicking on that, and then what is the actual conversion to install it on their phones, because we will have the Play Store and App Store data as well. Once again, yeah, we'll use it on specific blog articles. I've already mentioned that. So Fathom also provides referrals. So if we run, we can see where people are coming from, if it's social, if it's more technical blogs, if it's more, security and privacy focused blogs and websites, we can just see where people are coming from. And then we can also, with that information, we can create incentive programs for content creators. So we can provide unique landing pages with just, a very specific or hidden URL, give it to like a YouTuber or, a podcaster, and then incentivize them based on how much traffic they drive through to a landing page. And that can all be done through S&T. So that's how we will use it. And I guess it's just very important to note that this has nothing to do with the app. Like, we'll never implement analytics in the app, and Fathom will not be part of that whatsoever. This is only for our marketing web properties, just to help us out with KPI planning. So Jakob and I met with the Fathom team just to get a little bit more information of how it works. And Jakob then took that and set up a self-hosted version, which is what we'll use. And there's a demo up and running for anyone who wants to see it. So we will host this ourselves, just making it even more, I guess, secure and in our control. Any questions? Cool. So a little bit more about how Fathom works. The data is collected by embedding an image, a 1x1 pixel, via a URL on the page. Looks like there's a question. Jakob, when this vote is done, Jakob, thanks for being patient with us.
Jersey, I do have one thing to add, if I can.
Sure.
Just to add to that, this is something that realistically is something we need, especially going into V1, with the amount of content that we want to be putting out and stuff to attract developers and contributors, etc., into the funnel. We really do need analytics like the stuff that Fathom provides, to go with the new content that we're going to be pushing out, the new kind of developer stuff that we're going to be pushing out. So this is something that we are quite desperate for. I just wanted to kind of add that in there for anybody who isn't quite aware of it,
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, definitely. So jumping back into how Fathom specifically works, it's listed out here. The data is collected via embedding an image. That image is then downloaded from their servers, hosted on Heroku for auto-scaling. And Jakob, feel free to jump in at any point, because you kind of know more than I do on this. But when a request is made to the servers, the process handling hashes and salts the data. So then that data is not stored anywhere. It's not maintained in a server. It's kind of cleaned at that point. The data is in the scrambled form is then passed to the redistribution clusters for storage. So essentially, the only information stored are what they claim to collect on their websites, right? So paths, refers, and timings of requests. There's absolutely no cookie associated to users, which is obviously the issue with using Google Analytics. So, and essentially it really is, it's privacy preserving, it respects the user's data, and it doesn't track or store any of their information anywhere.
Yes, essentially the way it works is it just has this 1 pixel image that is loaded every time, and that just collects on the server the things like the paths and the timings and so on. And everything else is hashed. One thing that I might add here, it says it's hosted on Heroku. In our case, it's just hosted on the DigitalOcean host. And the thing is, it doesn't auto-scale because self-hosted ones don't auto-scale. So disadvantage of that is we just have to keep it on a decently sized host. So when some kind of viral marketing campaign goes off, we don't want to have it fail. That's about it.
Yeah, thanks, Jakob. And when we do have those like kind of heavy like acquisition campaigns running, we can work with Jakob to make sure that we have the proper infrastructure set up. Any questions on how it works?
I mean, pretty much clear. I'm just wondering how much information we have, or would there be any way for us to know if more information is stored, or if cookies injected? I'm assuming we would be able to tell, but any changes to how Fathom works now?
Yeah, so since this is self-hosted, the upgrades are manual. So I guess we can just audit whenever we upgrade to see if they add anything. The other thing is, as the document here states, all the data goes to Redis, and we can just directly ourselves look up what is stored in Redis. And as far as I can tell, it's accurate. Everything is hashed except things like paths. So their description is accurate. But yeah, that's a good point. If we would want to upgrade the self-hosted instance, we would probably have to see what it actually changes to see if it maybe starts doing anything we don't want.
Cool. Thanks, Jakob.
Good question, Hester. So obviously, just going through the pros and cons. How would we be informing people about this tracking? So obviously, this process is intended to help people understand what we're doing, giving the stakeholders and community a voice in whether we do this or not. And before we implement this, there will be a series of communications that goes out, whether it will be a blog post, an update to discuss. And I guess we can even potentially even put like an indicator on the web properties that we are using it, and that it's not collecting any information. And then open for suggestions as to what else we can do and what we do.
You can put maybe a small disclaimer on the bottom that says something like, anonymous stats or anonymous site stats tracked through Fathom, and that's enough of a resource to let people know what we're doing and how we're doing it. That way, later on down the line, people will see that it's happening on whatever resources they're clicking on and going to.
Absolutely.
I guess I'm curious to what extent your average visitor is familiar with Fathom. Like if they saw a disclaimer, and I agree that's the right thing to do. If they saw a disclaimer saying that there's some tracking, like would they understand how anonymous it is? Or might it kind of be a bit scary thinking, okay, it's just like Google Analytics?
I'd say there's a myriad of people with various things. One is the people who don't care, won't care. The people who do care and don't understand can Google it. And how much they're willing to Google it is probably going to be contingent upon the copy we use to inform them we're doing this type of thing. And the people that do care and know will understand.
Also, I have one thing to add, which may be kind of weird for most people, but the thing is, we use Cloudflare proxies for most of our sites, especially Status IM, which means that Cloudflare knows more about our site visitors than we do right now.
Also true.
I was just Googling it. Are there any like bad examples of Fathom, like for any leaks or any major criticism? I couldn't see any, but
not that I know. I know it's a fairly young project and company. And they actually couldn't disclaim who is using it at the moment, but before we implement, we can follow up and get that list. And I guess any case studies.
I haven't been able to find anything in my searching.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'd love if we could guide whoever is interested to a page where she can find more information instead of having to Google it themselves.
Well, I would assume if we deploy this, we could just have a blog post on our Status IM explaining, hi guys, we're implementing Fathom, here's how it works. And then just have that linked in the footer of the page.
Excellent.
Absolutely. These are all good suggestions.
I might suggest even positioning it as an initiative, like in order to provide web services with privacy, you have to take these kinds of steps. And so it's not just that we're falling back on this because we can't do GA, but rather it's a proactive measure. And we're excited about doing this because we want to be able to reach people to do what needs to be done. But at the same time, we want to preserve privacy. Here's that compromise and talk them up a little bit.
Yep.
Are there any like distinct or like clear benefits on the user side from doing this, or is it mainly for our benefit?
I think it's mostly just respecting our audience and kind of just adhering to the principles as much as we can. I think we're not taking personal PII from our users, and also this is also like a branding piece, right? Like we can promote and be proud of the fact that we're using this instead of GA, and publicize this to everyone, and actually kind of potentially even start like a movement in people doing this. Because I know there's a lot of other projects and it's pretty obvious, they're building the tools for security and privacy. And then you go to their website and you get the cookie tracking GDPR notification, which is a bit hypocritical. So I think it's definitely for us to stake claim in what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we're protecting our users by not taking their data.
I personally see it as an attempt to give a shit on who our community is, and so that we can effectively market to them while also upholding our principles at the same time. Like we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot in the process of trying to reach our audience and get the product to the people who would care about it, by not doing anything. And so this is one of the best situations of not like upholding the principles, not taking this information, but getting what information is currently available that is aligned with our principles and using them.
Absolutely. So quickly, just to rehash kind of the pros and cons. The pros is pretty much how we will use it, right? Enable us to more effectively measure campaigns and content success, and will allow the marketing team to just be a bit more KPI driven, and hold us a bit more accountable. Right now, we're basing the success of our campaigns on social metrics and attendance to things. And the more we get into acquisition, the more we simply just need metrics. And he also makes a point. Yeah, we use Ghost, and we use other tools that are, once again, that we simply need to use, that are collecting more information than Fathom does. Ghost, it's because our Ghost instance is self-hosted, Jakob, we don't have GA, but I mean, Twitter and Facebook and even GitHub is collecting more information than we do, but we simply need those tools.
I definitely agree with the GitHub one. I mean, we host most of our pages on GitHub pages, so GitHub also has more information than we do about our visitors, as does Cloudflare.
And unfortunately, we can't just stop using GitHub. Well,
I mean, there are alternatives, but that's yet another thing that will take away focus from actually building the freaking app.
Yep. So once again, we can be more KPI driven. We can learn more about our audience, not through direct data, but just through like inference and information that we collect over time. And we can incentivize acquisition campaigns through third parties with S&T specifically. That will drive further acquisition. And then we can finally start to leverage tools and platforms such as CodeFund, which is Gitcoin's privacy ad platform. They simply need some sort of metric or some sort of it's not a cookie, but it's data on our website that tracks clicks, and we can actually start to run those ads across their ad network. The cons, once again, some people could argue that this is in opposition to privacy and to our principles, and that's why we're hosting this vote, just to see what people think. And then also, to Hester's question, if they do push an update, it is more work on our side to audit it and make sure that there's nothing negative that we're implementing. So that's the information that we have. That's the proposal which we'll be voting on. So next step is next Monday, October 28th. We're going to kick off a vote in the S&T voting DApp for now. I know Ricardo is potentially working on some stuff with topic democracy, which we may leverage instead. But either way, there will be a simple vote where S&T stakeholders can vote on yes or no to this proposal. And once the vote closes on Friday, we'll have our results, and we either will implement or we will not. So please vote, get involved. Let us know if you have any other questions in this discuss post, and we'll go from there. If there are no other questions on this one, I'll kick it over to JB, who's going to run through the second proposal, which is opening up Discord to the community. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone.
Cool, thanks, Johnny. I don't have a Slazzy slide or anything, but I guess to summarize, so prior to Istanbul, we had a lot of feedback over the past 6 months from contributors that kind of communication was a bit wonky. Status Desktop hadn't really fulfilled some of the voids left by Slack, and that people were feeling a bit isolated or finding collaboration a bit difficult. And so in Istanbul, we talked about a proposal to test Discord for kind of the rest of the year and see if that increased the communication and collaboration across core contributors. So the initial solution was to a problem that core contributors mainly faced, which was kind of day-to-day collaboration during our day jobs at Status. So most people, it looks like, joined Discord. We've not really been tracking, but it looks like most core contributors are in there, and Jakob's obviously bridged a lot of the channels. So we see lots of traffic coming through, and maybe being like too successful, it seems like community members have now asked to join the Discord as well. And so I guess there are pros and cons. Obviously, our principles around openness and transparency probably dictate that opening up the Discord is something we should do, or at least seriously think about. There's no additional cost right now to adding in additional people to Discord, and people have asked to be involved, so increased engagement seems better than not. The cons, or some of the concerns that people have shared, have been around I guess firstly, we're using some bits of Discord for private channels and communication for kind of sensitive topics. So whether it's personal identifying information or financial information. And so we have to be careful if we do open that up to everyone. And, it's only temporary. So this was a temporary stopgap to try Discord to see if it works and see if it improves our collaboration as a group. And so, I guess we don't have a long-term plan, right? There is no guarantee that we'll continue using Discord in Q1 if this doesn't work or if other options get better. And so moving a community over to Discord may actually not be the smartest idea if we would move them away from it or close it down, early next year. So yeah, similar to Johnny, would love people's thoughts on ideas, and we can put this to a community vote if needed as well.
I, for one, think it's good. It allows me to be more productive because I don't struggle with communications as I used to, and the fact that we are explicit about it being temporary until we, for example, get back to making desktop actually usable, I think is perfectly sensible. I don't see the point of making it harder on ourselves to do the actual thing that we made ourselves do, which is make the app, just because we should struggle with this broken software that we haven't finished when we are focused on the mobile app. But that's just what I think.
I would personally second that. I felt it easier to communicate with people to get things done and figure out what's going on since the switch, based on everyone being in the same place. The bridge has allowed me to communicate with the outside, with the status channel and people asking questions in status. And as status gets better with the features, it maintains some feature parity with what we want to do in terms of using it as a collaboration tool. That can be a graceful switch back over to status, as long as we maintain bridges in the right spot, which I think is fine. So people can still continue to use status if they want to, and collaborate just as well. It's just the one thing you lose in a lot of this is one-on-ones, like DMs with people. So we'll have to develop a better culture around where that should go first, and maybe second, or emergency type stuff. But we should be focused on being efficient first, using things like this that tie back to what we're trying to get to, that then allow for graceful changes back to status, in my opinion.
And so do you both then think it's okay to then open up the Discord to all community members?
As long as the channels that need to be private remain private. I have a slight worry that we lose, like say for instance, we push V1, we gain a bunch of users, and then they spam the channel, and we're back to square one and where we were in beforehand. So we need, if we do that, we need to make sure that the channels that are open to community members don't inhibit the core contributors team and those maybe even slightly outside of core contributors to get work done and not just have a bunch of spam talk that isn't relevant to work.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I worry about.
I definitely agree with that. I don't know about opening to everyone, making it public, but non-core contributors, people who do bounties and stuff like that, sounds perfectly sensible to me. If we start getting anyone and everyone in there, that's not going to work. That's a horrible idea.
And the reason why we haven't experienced that amount of, I guess, disturbance has been because there hasn't been a tremendous amount of people in those channels asking questions and status. But the user base that's willing to jump onto Discord is much, much, much larger because the barrier of entry is much, much, much smaller because that's what everyone's already using. It's just a matter of clicking a button and serving on an application they already have. And so we may see a lot more chatter, which takes away from our ability to work as a team. And so, I mean, if we do it, they need to be relegated to various channels until they're invited into ones where we're doing our work.
I agree with Corey on this principle in the sense that I love the idea of having community members in our Discord, but only in kind of community open channels, right? So for instance, like the marketing channel, I often post unfinished like articles and stuff for proofreading and stuff like that, that wouldn't really be appropriate for anyone other than people on the team to read. So are we saying, you know, that we can invite community members into specific channels specially made for them, or, you know, are we saying open up kind of most channels to them?
So I think as it currently stands, most of our channels are open. So if today, for example, we added in a community member, they would see everything apart from, I think there's a few kind of people ops and security private channels. Right. So that would I guess not be great for the scenario you described.
In the Nimbus team, what we do is we have an open channel for everyone, and it's bridged with Gitter. And we have a project management channel, which is private, and where we discuss stuff like what kind of talk we want to present to DEF CON, for example. So I guess most teams can have both general stuff and then project management channels.
Yeah, because I haven't counted, but I think we're kind of running kind of 25 plus channels at this point, right? Our Discord's been so successful, we keep on adding channels, and it's probably getting already noisy with even just the core contributors in. Johnny and Jinho, do you have like any feedback from the community on exactly what it is they're kind of missing, or that they would like to have access to? Is it just this great bunch of people in general?
Yeah, I think, well, our community and the people who chat in the channels now, it's significantly smaller than where it was. Primarily because, you know, like Corey's point, there are barriers to entry to getting status, and it's not the most reliable tool, right? So these people want just a more reliable tool and something that they could just easily chat with us on. That's been the feedback so far. And I think otherwise, just looking at it, it's been just looking at the drop off of people in the channels since we switched to desktop, or since we closed our Slack, is pretty high.
Would it work if we set up a separate, server Discord server for community members so rather than invite them to the existing one we have, where people are, I guess, concerned about the confidential information or kind of the unfinished work that they don't want to really share. But if we had a separate Discord that we invited everyone to, and then because it's quite easy, I think, to manage the different servers in Discord once you're into Discord.
Could do that. I mean, whatever's easiest, or just create just have private channels for the team. I think we just need to think about what the ultimate goal of this is. It's to interact with our community in a much more open and like seamless way, and give our community members like a simple way to contact us and to communicate with each other. So whatever works best there, I mean, I'm open to it.
Yeah, because I think I hear from core contributors that they're looking at Discord as a collaboration tool to do their work, but community members want a communication tool to work with us. So there's probably a bit of like those two things aren't entirely aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any opinions on this?
The last thing from my side is, when we do launch V1, like we have a lot of plans and there's a lot of traffic that's going to be driven to our site and to install the app. And we really do need to make it as easy for people to troubleshoot as possible. And Discord is just easier to get into right now than Status Desktop. So I would hate to miss out on the opportunity to get those people, bring them into our community, support them, cultivate those relationships. So that's a missed opportunity. But at the same time, the bigger this community gets, the harder it will ultimately be to migrate them back to Status. But I don't think that should stop us. It's better to lose a few people when migrating as opposed to not getting them at all.
One thing I might note is that we are also bridged on Gitter, and Gitter requires either a GitLab or GitHub or a Twitter account. So that's actually even lower barrier to entry than Discord for most people.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Yeah, I'm just, I came through coming to Status on the website, and I think it's kind of cool how Discord is there and you can kind of, from the website, kind of see what's going on and then sign up pretty easily. I like what someone said, just how it is now, people can communicate, but maybe have some channels private and then kind of invite people maybe as a per case basis on more sensitive channels. Maybe have some that are just strictly for core contributors, and maybe have something in the middle, if people start showing more interest, to kind of keep out spammers. Maybe have some totally open, some kind of in the middle, and some private.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely use the categories in Discord to create, core contributor categories within and fully open ones, if that helps people delineate, public and core contributor.
I was chatting today with Yuri because Yuri, correct me if I'm wrong, but Embark team already has their own separate server on Discord. How is it? And you also have community members on that server, right? How has that been? Because what we were discussing was, does it make sense to migrate those Embark channels now to the Status Discord, and with it, the community members that are there? Because it feels like there's two different kind of modes. One server has community members, the other doesn't. So in terms of the noisiness, I'm curious, how is that for Embark team, just having an open channel where anyone can drop in and out?
Well, it's usually okay. We also have private channels which we manage with the roles. So we can also discuss the more sensitive parts. And just like Nimbus, we also bridge it to Gitter and to Status itself. So sometimes people they will actually not be on Discord; they'll be on Gitter and talk from there. I mean, I don't really see it as an issue. I think issue is really for the more private channels, the more sensitive stuff. But if that's kept private, then it shouldn't be an issue. And I like the idea of being open to the community, that anyone can join and participate and feel like they know what's going on.
And then just knowing, right, if we do migrate communities into Discord, that's we don't really want that to be a short-term solution, because it's a pain to move everyone out. As a group, do we rate Discord enough to continue using it into next year? I haven't had anything terribly negative about our Discord trial so far.
Hey, this is an Andy. I just want to provide one counterpoint, which I'm not sure if you guys have talked about, but having a product that is a messaging platform and using a different messaging platform is something that we should just be aware of, and we'll probably face criticism for that somewhere. The reality is, and it sounds like from everybody, you guys have used these for a lot longer, and productivity is incredibly important, but we need to be prepared for that, the perception of that as well.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Andy.
That was the main reason we let go of Slack, like dog feeding, eating our own food. So, but as someone said, we need to ship V1, then concentrate on desktop, I guess. And I think for Embark team as well, but for us at Nimbus, the main draw of Slack was threaded communication, because sometimes we had a conversation going, like one is talking about networking, another one is talking about, I don't know, proof of stake. And it makes very hard to follow on the current status app, who is replying to who.
Discord doesn't solve that.
Yes, that's true. But you still have the reply that quotes the previous stuff. But,
and you can use online and things like that. It's easy to share code. I think the issue with using status for work is not, I actually don't find the reliability or things like that be that big of an issue from what I experienced. It was really more the UI not being appropriate for a workflow for this type of thing. Like if we were like friends or something like that, instead of using Telegram, using status desktop or status mobile, I think it's absolutely fine. But when it comes to for work, the UI was just not made for that. And I think if we're ever going to switch back, for me at least, the biggest obstacle is not V1 or reliabilities or things like that. It's really the UI. Needs to be a UI specifically for this particular purpose.
Yeah, I guess echoing on that, Slack is popular for a reason, and that's because they've optimized for Teams and not necessarily chatting. We've had chat apps for a long period of time, and if they were doing the job appropriately for Teams, then Slack would not be popular, or Discord for that matter. So the UI has a big part of how efficient you are in the process of doing teamwork. I'm sorry, Hester, go ahead.
No, I mean, like, mostly echoing the same points, like, which is why I think we will not be moving, like for office productivity or as a work tool, I don't think we'll be moving back to status anytime soon, because it's just a very different use case than what the core app is developing for at the moment. I guess I just wanted to say I'm not entirely sure on the problem that we're trying to solve. Like I totally understand we want to optimize for community engagement. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm not sure what access to Discord would contribute to that. Like beyond, let's say, the bridging that we already have in place. I'm trying to imagine if there's a bigger demand for understanding what the teams are working on, there might be a whole different direction, which is like more frequent updates on Discuss, a more comprehensive timeline of what's coming down the road, whether it's like set in stone or not. So I guess I'm not entirely clear what we want to achieve by providing more people access to Discord. Like principally, I don't have like any concerns about having more people in Discord, but I wonder what the added value is.
One thing is that when you do blog posts or discuss, well, especially blog posts, there is less personal touch that someone that is really a core contributor involved in the project just reply like 1 minute after you ask a question, and you feel, oh, those people are really accessible, and they're not like, we are not behind a wall, and we need to go through some kind of bureaucratic procedures to talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that, I understand that point. I'm just not sure to what extent it's the case now that like people write on Discuss are not a core contributor and let's say like wait for days for someone to reply. If that's the case, maybe we should be more proactive in like engaging with contributors that are looking to connect.
Another thing is that I think the forum is like, oh, if I create a post on the forum, it will be viewed by everyone for days. While if I just write a message and maybe it's a bad question, it will just be forgotten after a day because there will be other discussions after.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if that's the case of it being too public, the alternative route would be to have more transparency, as in like who to reach out to if you have a specific question, what the teams are up to, like let's say a point of contact for each swarm.
Could also be just a signaling thing, like, you know, we're in this app, you stay in that app. It kind of puts like a perceived wall, even if effectively like the communication is bridged perfectly between the two. You know, like in one app, you can see thumbnails and GIFs and whatever, and then the other you can't. It maybe just is like a signal of how we value and include people that's
Got
missing.
it. Okay, got it.
I don't know if people perceive that, but that would be my guess.
I think that is a perception at the moment, right? So when we're messaging in Discord and it's bridged to status, it says, you know, my username and then like bot in Discord. And then as soon as like the community member sees that, they're like, hey, how come I can't get into Discord? Like, well, maybe soon. Okay. Sorry.
Got it.
So it's actually just the tool itself, right? Because the content, because the channels are bridged, is exactly the same. So what we're...
I think to Carrie's point, it isn't. Like it doesn't have the GIFs and it doesn't have the images, and it's a bit more clunky.
Yeah, sorry. So I mean, it's essentially what we're talking about is it's nicer for them to use Discord right now than it is to use Status, and so that feel of inclusion and getting exactly what we're getting is what's missing. And so it's not. So I guess what I'm pointing at, it's not like all the other channels that we have in Discord right now, which people can't see. I guess they're the bits that I hear that we value. It's that ability to collaborate as a group. And I think a few people kind of voice concerns that they'd be worried that work might get swamped with messages or spam, or just the noise in general would kind of reduce their collaboration or their productivity. So then if we did have either, you know, a standalone server for community members and us, that would potentially make everyone happy. We could coexist, not swamp core contributors with too much volume, but allow community members to have the same tools and access that we do.
I don't know enough about Discord to know if it's messy to have like multiple servers. Just thinking of someone who's already got like two and then adding a third, would that be annoying to flip between them, or is that pretty manageable?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty manageable. We do that with design at the moment as well.
Because I guess the other thing, right, is the number of channels. So we currently, the number of channels is growing, and if community members came along and wanted to create more channels, that I guess adding in another 10 or 15 channels may actually further like tax collaboration and just being able to find information in Discord. So we'd have to come up with a set of like community guidelines for how we manage the Discord and like different permissions on creating new channels and managing them.
Maybe we can have like a status Discord and a status community Discord, which would be managed mainly like with community channels, so that the community can grow as they wish. Because like if we automatically set up a channel for each languages we have community members in, we automatically have like 20 or 40 more channels. So that might be one thing.
Yeah, so I guess Julie, we can put this to like a community vote as well next week, and it sounds like there are probably like 3 or potentially 4 different options. The first is, which I don't hear really any support for, is like let's not add community members at all. The middle ground seems to be like creating a separate Discord for community members that we would join. Third option would be allowing anyone to join our Discord and then using permissions and roles as a way of like I guess walling access to different things, and the fourth option being just adding everyone in. Anyone who wants access to anything can have it. And then we could kind of define those 4 options and let people vote.
It's a little interesting how we were framing this in terms of a community vote, though, because if we step back, we're basically asking the community to vote on how much access they would like to our communications.
Yeah, totally.
They like, I don't know, why would someone from the community basically say, I would not want access to, it seems sort of like a kind of a formality where, like, I don't know, community members in general. I guess people could, that means they could vote that they don't want access, or they don't think members as, like, in general, community members should not have some access. But it does seem a little, it seems like it could be a little rhetorical of a vote, because it seems like community members would probably just want to have access.
Good point, Barry. Once again, this is an experiment to just learn and evolve. Note taken for the next one.
As far as I can tell, they have access. It's just the argument is more about how it's perceived rather than if they have access. They do.
Yeah, the other thing it was just kind of going through my mind while I was listening to everyone talk is, now we're talking about, how we're migrating all this communication to Discord versus, why we brought it back compared to when we were purely on status. The thing is, these features that people are bringing up now, like having threaded conversations, or some of the features that you get in things like Slack and Discord, I never saw anyone actually voice an opinion saying we want to have these things in status, let's build them. It's not even a matter of we didn't, like, we tried but we weren't able to build them. We just didn't even, it seems like people didn't want to focus on building those things. People just, I guess, want something out of the box where it's that thinking has been done for them, and it's already kind of, here you go, use this design that's built for this purpose. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to build it.
Oh yeah, purpose is the key word here. I don't think that the purpose of status is to be a work productivity tool. It never was supposed to be, and that's why we never had any focus on building work productivity functionality into it. In addition to desktop being kind of a lower priority, let's say.
Another thing is that before moving away from Slack, there was a thread in Slack about what we will miss from Slack, and I'm pretty sure threaded conversation got a lot of vote, but obviously we don't have the logs anymore, or maybe we have them, but not in a proper consumable format, and we didn't have discuss at the time as well. So we couldn't save them for posterity.
Funny that you say that. We actually do have the logs, and they're at slack-archive.status.im, and they're fully readable and searchable. And yes, I do recall people mentioning that they will miss mentions and group chats and stuff like that. And I don't think that was taken into account. I think the point was to make a public thing out of switching, even if it wasn't fully thought through. But I guess it helped us realize that desktop is trash, but that didn't change anything because the desktop is still mostly trash or even unusable. But at least we realized that Whisper is trash fully. So I guess that's a benefit, but it made everything else worse.
Well, I guess part of the thinking was that if we force ourselves to use desktop, then we will force ourselves to make it better.
Yeah, that was partially the argument. I agree, but that's never materialized because, well, desktop isn't it's not high priority, as I said.
Yeah, limited resources, and the resources needed to go to V1 and not a bunch of other things.
Yeah, pretty much nothing changed in desktop after we switched to desktop. Like almost nothing. It's essentially the same as the day we announced we are switching from Slack to desktop status.
Didn't we fix a lot of bugs though?
Very, very little. Very little.
I think the idea was also always to switch from Slack to status, not defined whether that would be mobile or desktop or like what other functionality we might be missing. Yeah, indeed. Like at least we learned about how reliable our messaging was.
Yeah, that was probably the main benefit.
And so then, it seems reasonable to assume that we'll be using Discord for, the next 6 months, right? It's going to be a good period of time before work on desktop brings it up to a point that we can use it as an organizational collaboration tool.
I mean, what do you see changing, let's say 6 months from now? Why would we, if we start using Discord, why would we leave it 6 months from now?
So I guess maybe at some point some of these features get implemented into desktop, and so if there was, I guess there's like a minimum threshold for whether it's, I don't know, threading or at mentions or reactions, but at some point if the status desktop app has some form of parity with the features we want, then we might consider moving from Discord to status desktop.
Oh, we should probably start with making it work.
If those features exist, I would personally prefer to use status. I want to use the thing we're building.
Yeah, I mean, I
based
agree.
on that use, add features to it that enhance that use. But if that minimal threshold isn't there and we don't have the efficiency to add features and do stuff, then it's really hard to justify using it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like if after V1 we found the resources and we do like let's do 1 month only work on desktop and let's make it usable. Sure, I'm all for that. But while we're working on V1, there's no point in making it harder on ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I would say though that saying desktop doesn't work, I'm sure some things about it are off, but I mean, it does work in the sense that, you can message and it sort of has that functionality. But I think, the reason it feels clunky to all of us is it just lacks so much of the functionality we've grown accustomed to that we expect out of, like a desktop messenger. So, okay, I guess it doesn't run on Linux, but the reason I said, 6 months from now, why would we reconsider this is because I don't see like if you look on Discuss or anywhere, you don't see much of an impetus. You don't see much of people asking for these features in desktop. You don't, I understand there's some bugs that could be fixed. It could probably be more memory efficient and things like that for sure. But I think in some cases, maybe people would rather have some of these features implemented or not, I don't know, before we, let's say, even improve the performance of desktop and things like that. But if you look on Discuss, you don't see people really asking for, I guess, a lot of these features. I could be wrong.
One thing to mention as well, just from my recollection, is like I feel that like in the last 2 engagement surveys we did, where we asked everyone what they thought, like the communication tool came up like quite strongly across the last 2 quarters as something that like people were feeling like it was impeding work, or there was a sense of like isolation because that connectivity with other people wasn't there. So I don't know if it spoke about specific features, but it did like strongly kind of imply it was something on a lot of people's minds.
So it sounds like there's not really like a perfect consensus on how we move forward. So Johnny, I don't know if we want to give a community vote a while and see, maybe we can come up with different options rather than a straight yes or no, because I think to Barry's point, no one's going to vote no, but we could.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so we could just come up with some different options on how we, try and integrate the community into Discord.
Yeah, I would say there it sounds like there are a few different options we can take. And then within the vote, just add the pros and cons of each, and then we can vote within the voting tab. It doesn't have to be yes or no. We can have options.
Cool.
Great. So thanks everyone. We'll capture this, write up some notes, share it and discuss, and then publish this recording so people can view it, listen in, kind of formulate their own opinions, and then we'll kick off the vote next Monday. Like I said, this is an experiment to see how it goes. Some good thoughts, some good learning. So thanks everyone, and please vote next week.
Thanks.
Cool. Thanks all.
Setting it up.
Thank you.
Thanks for setting it up, JZ.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.